Good evening, it's 8 o'clock. I'm Sally Burdett, live from Johannesburg. Your top stories this evening.
Executives and senior staff that appear to have been part of a network that actively participated in irregular, corrupt and or otherwise unlawful contracts and processes at Eskom.
Parliament's probe into state capture at Eskom reveals a network of corruption within the power utility, calls now for criminal action against those implicated. At the same time, those implicated in the Estina Dairy farm scandal, including Gupta family members, are off the hook, it seems. And gruesome details emerge in court of how 2 suspects brutally murdered 7 family members in Vlakfontein. Let's start here. Parliament's inquiry into state capture at Eskom wants criminal charges to be laid against the Gupta brothers, Duduzane Zuma, and former SAA board chair Dudu Myeni. The committee has finalised its report, which details widespread corruption and mismanagement at the power utility. Former senior government officials have also been accused of dereliction of duty for failing to protect Eskom. Lester Kivet has the details.
While the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture is in full swing, another inquiry has completed its task and has confirmed Eskom was turned into a feeding trough for the corrupt. A multi-party parliamentary committee has found the power utility's former management was used by the Guptas to loot state coffers.
The inquiry has exposed a set of executives and senior staff that appear to have been part of a network that actively participated in irregular, corrupt and or otherwise unlawful contracts and processes at Eskom.
Parliament's inquiry has now recommended that law enforcement agencies investigate the individuals implicated. It's also calling for lifestyle audits. The deadline for Parliament to be updated on the progress of these investigations has been set for March next year, while calling on the Speaker of the National Assembly to lay criminal charges against those who were subpoenaed but failed to pitch. This includes Dudu Myeni, Duduzane Zuma and the Guptas.
The committee recommends that the new Eskom board should urgently engage the Auditor General to address all possible irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure.
The committee wants former Public Enterprises Ministers Lynn Brown and Malusi Gigaba to appear at the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture. They'll need to answer to gross negligence during their time as the government's representative, who is Eskom's sole shareholder. Lester Kivet, Parliament.
Meanwhile, the State Capture Commission continued its work today. Former Mineral Resources Minister Nwako Ramatlhodi believes he was axed in 2017 because he was becoming an obstacle to state capture. In a no-holds-barred testimony, he told the Zondo Commission today that the Gupta family had a grip like a python on former President Jacob Zuma. He's described it as a period of madness, and Ramatlhodi says he told Zuma that he had, quote, auctioned executive authority to the influential family. He also detailed how the ANC's National Executive Committee repeatedly raised concerns about the former president's relationship with the Guptas.
If the NEC was convinced this friendship is really detrimental to the organization and to the country, they would want to look at the next thing to do.
Chair, you can characterize that period as a season of madness in the organization.
While allegations of Gupta interference mount at the Zondo Commission, the National Prosecuting Authority has confirmed that it's provisionally dropping charges against those involved in the Estina Dairy farm probe. They say they haven't received the legal assistance needed from India and the UAE to continue their investigation. NPA spokesperson Paladi Shuping says the case can continue at a later stage once the investigation is finalized. The prosecuting authority says the Gupta family lawyers have been informed that the case will be dropped next week.
We have requested information from the 2 countries that you talked about, which is the United Arab Emirates and India. But unfortunately, there has been some delays in requesting that information. So the challenge that we had was that we had up until the 30th of November, which is this coming Friday, to provide the defense with the indictment. So at the moment, due to that outstanding evidence that we are saying is very crucial to our case, we are not in a position to finalize the indictment.
Gruesome details have emerged of the murders of 7 Vlakfontein family members. Accused number 1, Vusi Mabaso, has admitted to the crimes but says he was forced to commit them. The Protea Magistrates Court has heard how members of the Koza family, 3 women and 4 children, died. Some were raped and bludgeoned with a hammer or were suffocated. Linda Kutler has the story, but please note the details are very graphic and upsetting.
A courtroom packed to its capacity listened in stunned silence as the affidavit of accused number 1, 27-year-old Vusi Mabaso, was read out.
On that fateful day, the first person to be struck was Tudu, and it was on a Thursday. She came to the house, and after some time, I struck her with the said hammer, and she died, and I placed her at the back of the outside rooms. Mbali was the second person. She came home from work with Sbonga, the young girl. I then struck her with the hammer and suffocated the young child that was with her.
Mabaso says he intends to plead not guilty to the crimes. He insists he was forced to kill and feared for his life. Mabaso claims accused number 2, Fida Kupe, and a gang of men from Cape Town kidnapped him 3 years ago.
I then raped Karabo in his presence, and after that he watched me suffocate the same children in his presence.
But in his affidavit, Kupe claims his co-accused is lying. Police say both men can be placed at the scene of the crime.
Kodwa iphutha kalenzile uthe makafika abantu abane bebengakashoni labantu abane laba abashonise kakhona ngensuku ezimbili ehlukene bengeke kwenzeke ukuthi abantu abane bagqitshwe ngalendlela abagqitshwe ngayo endlini angaboni nikusakhona.
The men's bid for bail continues on Thursday. Lindokuhle Xulu, Protea.
Now, an update on one man's fight for cancer treatment. The Government Employees Medical Scheme, or GEMS, has now agreed to pay Dr. Sipho Bavuma's medical expenses. On Monday, the 47-year-old medic told the media how GEMS was refusing him Keytruda treatment. Now, the 47-year-old is fighting lung cancer, which has now spread to his brain. The treatment course will cost R500,000. In 2016, the South Gauteng High Court forced GEMS to pay for Bavuma's chemotherapy. Over a week ago, the same court again ordered the medical aid company to pay for more treatment that he needs to help prolong his life. GEMS appealed the ruling and it was set aside. But GEMS has since reviewed its decision, now saying the treatment can benefit Dr. Bavuma.
The care of a stage 1 cancer is completely different from a stage 4 cancer. So those are considerations that are made even when doctors decide on treatments, right? But to put it that you're too advanced and we're not going to pay, I think it's putting it in a very insensitive manner.
Tiger Brands is back in the spotlight over the Listeriosis outbreak. Richard Spoor Attorneys was in the South Gauteng High Court today, acting on behalf of the victims. More than 1,000 people contracted Listeriosis and 218 people died in the world's largest listeria outbreak. Rianti Naidu has this report.
These toddlers from a Klipspruit preschool made their first trip to the South Gauteng High Court today. In January, they were all hospitalized after contracting listeriosis. Acting on their behalf, Richard Spoor Attorneys brought forward an application to have their case certified as a class action lawsuit against Tiger Brands.
It's in their benefit for the class action to be certified, because if that doesn't happen, they're going to have 1,060 individual actions against them as opposed to one action on behalf of all 1,060 people.
The case is being led by Montlang Gobeni. She contracted listeriosis when she was pregnant. She now relies on crutches to walk. But worse, her 11-month-old is permanently disabled.
She is now suffering with hydrocephalus, which is life-threatening, which she's going to live with for the rest of her life. She's now living with the VP shots in her head, and We're not coping at all. Tiger Brand can just do the right thing, compensate everyone who has been infected.
The attorneys will return to Deputy Judge President Phineas Mojapelo's chambers on Monday to iron out issues. But it's expected the class action will be certified then. Riante Naidu, Johannesburg.
Other news making local headlines now. The family of a murdered ANC Limpopo councillor is convinced his killing was a hit as his valuables were not taken. Thabang Maupa, known for his fierce criticism of the VBS scandal, was killed on Monday night in Burgersfort. His colleague was wounded during the shooting. ANC members gathered at the house of the 42-year-old today. Maupa was critical of his municipality's decision to unlawfully invest over 200 million rand into VBS Bank. Now, the police are hoping that a 50,000 rand reward will lead to the arrest and possible conviction of Thabang Maupa's killers. The Dross rape case is facing another delay. The accused is still waiting for a bed at Westkopje Psychiatric Hospital. 20-year-old Nicholas Nino is accused of raping a 7-year-old girl at a Dross restaurant in Silverton earlier this year. The court has postponed the matter to the 15th of January so Nino can undergo psychiatric evaluation. Outside court, the news of the postponement left many disappointed that justice has been delayed for the young survivor. The crowdfunding campaign to help the girl has managed to raise over 150,000 rand. Still ahead on eNews, under fire, British Prime Minister Theresa May battles on over her Brexit deal, trying to convince Parliament it's the best they're going to get. And of course, all your money news with Mateo.
Well, Naspers pulling up the local market today while miners were back in positive trade.
Time now to talk money with Mateo Kharipa. Good evening to you, Mateo. We started the bulletin talking about Eskom, and that probe into corruption at Eskom has been finalised and calls now for further action to be taken. But you've also been looking at the bottom line today. Tell us more.
Definitely. When President Cyril Ramaphosa first came in, he, of course, chose a new board under Jabu Mabuza for them to turn around the utility that is Eskom. But it still hasn't worked as yet. It's still early days. Khalib Kasim, the chief financial officer, really saying that the problems are going to go on for a couple of years now. In terms of the results itself, Eskom had 11 billion rand in terms of losses, but their profits are also not enough to pay some of their debts. We do know that they're on a drive to raise about 72 billion rand, of which they've been doing quite well. They've got some money from the China Development Bank as well as the African Development Bank, but operationally they're still hurting because there is a lot of debt to pay at 419 billion that they still need to pay in terms of debt. And their CEO Phakamani Khatebe really saying that they have no choice but to borrow more money.
We're sitting with a debt of 400 billion. There's a carrying of 72%, which is very, very huge, which means that the money we make, in simple terms, it means the money we make is not good enough to service our total debt. We have to borrow to service the debt. That's what it says.
It doesn't sound healthy, borrowing to service debt. We're told personally never to do that. Is there light at the end of the tunnel for Eskom, do you think?
There should be in about 6 years, yes. 6
whole years. Okay, let's move on to the markets. How are they today?
Well, we had some positive trade on the markets today. The All Share up, and that was a back of a jump from Naspers that went up 5%. All Share up 1%. Industrials also in good territory, while financials kept flat today. Mining shares were in better trade today after 2 sessions of losses. Gold was up marginally, platinum up close to 0.5%, with resources up more than 1%. Price of gold at $1,223 an ounce, and platinum up more than 1.5% today, with Brent crude at $60.53 a barrel. Local currency back against all 3 major currencies now at 13.80 Rand. That's 15.67 against the euro and and also positive against the pound at 17 Rand 68 cents.
A stronger rand today, I'll take it. Thank you very much. Mateo Griba, chat to you again tomorrow. Let's move now to international news. And under fire, British Prime Minister Theresa May says her government's analysis of various Brexit scenarios shows the deal she negotiated is the best one possible. Speaking to Parliament, she said it was not possible to hold a second Brexit referendum before Britain leaves the EU on March the 29th next year. And those pressing for such a vote would delay the UK's departure or increase the possibility of leaving without a deal. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has told reporters in Geneva that the United States should stop encouraging provocative moves by Ukraine. Now, Russia seized 3 Ukrainian naval vessels and their crews on Sunday. Russia says Ukraine illegally entered Russian waters, something Ukraine denies. Lavrov is in Geneva to attend a UN-sponsored conference on Afghanistan. The Russian Foreign Minister says the Ukrainian warships ignored maritime law when they tried to enter the Kerch Strait. We'll go to Candice at our weather centre for your weather news. Hey there, Candice. And then a small piece of the original Eiffel Tower dating back to 1889 is auctioned off in Paris. Let's go to Cape Town now for all your weather news with Candice McKechnie. Evening to you, Candice. How's it looking?
Hi, Sally. Well, we've seen most of the thunderstorm activity over Limpopo and Mpumalanga on Wednesday, and on Thursday we're only expecting a handful of thunder showers into the afternoon, but overnight we will see a bit of cloud as well as rainfall moving in along the KwaZulu-Natal coastline as well as over the far northeastern part of the country, and that's largely due to a high pressure ridging in behind a departing cold front. It also brings in some morning fog along the escarpment as well as cooler temperatures in the northeast. In contrast, we're expecting warmer temperatures in the west with a handful of thunder showers over the northern and northeastern interior. We're expecting some high cloud over the western part of South Africa, so mostly clear for the Northern Cape. 35 for Uppington, 3 degrees in the morning for Sutherland with a high of 27. We'll see a warm day throughout the Western Cape. Cape Town at 27. High cloud is expected here. George, though, still remaining quite cool at 20 degrees. A chilly start to the day over the Eastern Cape interior, 7 degrees for Komani with a high of 25. We'll see most highs heading into the low and middle 20s with a dry forecast here. In KwaZulu-Natal, we're forecasting morning rain along the coast as well as for Vryheid and Ulundi, both topping 22. Cooler temperatures are expected into Mpumalanga with rain in the east and thunder showers in the west. Thunder showers are forecast over southwestern Limpopo with morning fog and drizzle and the possibility of rain over the eastern part of the province. You'll also see thunder showers through to northwest, Mahikeng topping 30 degrees, Bloemfontein matching their daytime high, but with a dry forecast throughout the Free State. Gauteng can expect a cooler day on Thursday with most highs heading into the mid-20s, 28 for Pretoria with up to a 40% chance of thunder showers. On Friday, we're expecting warm weather over the western part of the country, with that warm weather returning to Gauteng with a few drops of rain for Bombela. Thunder showers are forecast over the central and southeastern parts, and on Saturday we're expecting a hot day across the interior with thunder showers from Mahikeng through to the coast with a partly cloudy and warm day in the south. That's all from the Weather Centre for now. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you so much, Candice McKechnie. And finally, a little piece of Paris has sold for a hefty price. A part of the original spiral staircase from the Eiffel Tower has been sold at auction for over 2.6 million rand. The 4.3-metre high section of the staircase was built in 1889. Now, it used to lead from the second to the third floor of the famous landmark. It was dismantled after the installation of an elevator in 1983. The successful bidder is believed to be from the Middle East. Let's just recap your top stories this evening. Parliament's probe into state capture at Eskom reveals a network of corruption within the power utility. Calls now for criminal action against those implicated. At the same time, those implicated in the Estina Dairy Farm scam, including Gupta family members, are off the hook for now, it seems. And gruesome details emerge in court of how 2 suspects brutally murdered 7 family members in Vlakfontein. From me and the team, have a very good night.